Well, that's a little bit about her. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
You gotta be quick.
How much do you feed them?
Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone. This is Sitka. Sitka is an adult female bald eagle. She came to the Alaska Raptor Center as a juvenile in 2002 after she was hit by a car in Denilchik, which is a village on the Kenai Peninsula. She suffered multiple injuries from that accident, including a hole in her right patagium, or the fleshy part that connects the wing, and damage to her rear hallux or toe. As you guys may be able to see, she has a slight right wing droop, and she also lost that hallux due to the accident. She has been deemed non-releasable because she would not be able to hunt successfully in the wild. Now, like I said, that hallux is the rearmost toe on each foot. It's kind of like your thumb. They use that for catching slippery fish and for perching and roosting. A healthy bald eagle has a 1 in 10 chance of catching prey, and hers has been reduced to somewhere around 1 in 20. And in the winter, when prey is even more scarce, that could be particularly devastating for her. Well, she's been with us for 7 years now. It's been a real treat. We don't usually get to train a wild eagle to work in an educational setting like this one. And I'd like to point out that it only took about 6 months for her original trainer to train her to sit comfortably in front of people, which is actually a fairly short amount of time for a bald eagle. It usually take up to a year or so for their training. So she's kind of a smart girl. Well, that's a little bit about her. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
You gotta be quick.
How much do you feed them?
How much do we feed them? Well, actually all our birds are on a set diet or a meal that they get in grams as prescribed by the veterinarians, rehabilitators, and handlers like myself. A flighted bird would require more calories than a non-flighted bird, but in general they can eat about 10% of their body weight. And also the crop, which is a food storage place, or a pouch right underneath that white neck there, can hold about 2 pounds in a single feeding before it moves into the stomach. So, right now she's at just under 2 pounds of food per day. So, any other questions?
What kind of food?
What kind of food? Well, these guys are sea eagles. They're fish-eating eagles, but for a fish-eating bird, they're surprisingly varied in their diets. We try to feed them about 90% of their diet in fish. Also, they eat small mammals, minks, martins, rats, rabbits, and also carrion, which is a big part of their diet, especially in the winter. Bear, deer, seal, which is donated by the community to the center. So, right there in the back.
How much does she weigh?
I love this question. How much does she weigh? What do you guys think she weighs?
12 pounds.
12 pounds, 20,
15?
15. Good guesses, guys. She is, actually somebody hit it right on the dot. She's 12 pounds today. So, 20 is a little high, although I've seen turkeys that look bigger than she is. But I think that's about all I can say about that. Females are larger than the males. They range from 10 to 14. Males from 7 to 10, so there's a slight overlap there in weight. How old is she? She's 9 years old. She came in as a juvenile, so from the patterns on her plumage or her feathers, we could tell how old she was when she came in. She also acquired her white head and white tail, which is typical adult plumage in captivity, and we knew at that time that she was 5. So,
what is the typical lifespan?
Lifespan. In the wild, it ranges from 30 to 35 if they're lucky, and in captivity that increases to around 50 for obvious reasons. They have medical attention when and if needed. They get a healthy diet every day with vitamins, and they don't have to face the extremes that they would in nature. The record was 54 for a captive bald eagle. Right there in the back.
do they really get to know you as an individual?
She does. In fact, she will not just let anyone approach her. And she's pretty large and intimidating, so it took a lot of time just building up our trust-based relationship. I actually started out by just reading aloud in her mew, which is her enclosure. And that got her used to my voice and my mannerisms. And when you train these birds, you really need to take baby steps. We don't push them to do anything they're not ready to do, or force them to do anything, actually. So she pretty much trusts that I won't take her into a dangerous situation. And so there's really no reason for her not to trust me. So, in fact, she's never even acted defensively with me or bitten me or anything like that.
So can you touch her?
I can touch her. This is kind of a large group, so I don't think I feel comfortable doing it in front because she may bite. But I can touch her chest to feel that keel, that sternum there. It's kind of a way that we tell if they're overweight or underweight. I also use a scale to help with that. I can also touch her toes, especially when you have non-flighted birds. You need to be able to look at their feet. They're always on their feet, so you want to make sure there's no sores or anything there, like pododermatitis or bumblefoot, which is an infection. So, right here.
And you talk about their mating. Do they mate for life and their nest and so on?
They're mating. They are considered to be monogamous. Although if their mate isn't producing, they have a little bald eagle divorce and pick up another mate. Or if our mate dies, they'll quickly replace that mate. They don't stay together all year. In fact, they meet up in the spring at the same nest sites each year, the male and the female, and then in the fall they migrate their separate ways, if they migrate at all.
How many nests do they have in a year?
How many nests? They can have up to 5 other nests besides their primary nest, but usually it's just the one that they will use or decide to use. So, right over there, yes, ma'am. We don't often see eggs laid here at the center. They don't usually lay eggs in captivity, actually. Part of the reason is because they're pretty particular about their mates, and there isn't as much for them to choose from in captivity. Also, it's just they're a wild animal, it's an unnatural place for them to be. Maybe they don't feel as comfortable. Captivity kind of causes a little bit of stress on wild animals. And part of their courtship behaviors is building that nest and also the dramatic aerial display that they do, and they can't do that in captivity as well. So, yeah, we don't see a lot of nests, but we do have a fledgling in our main flight room, and it's this year's baby. So, any other questions?
Do they have a pellet that they regurgitate like the owl does?
They do. They eject a casting. We don't call it a pellet here, but it usually lacks bones, and it's mostly a neat little bundle of hair, undigestible, things like that. So,
When they're released, say several years later, is there a family they're going back to?
The chicks don't even stay with the parents. They stay with the parents from hatching about 4 months total. So sometimes they'll return to the general vicinity, but if we have a bird that's in captivity, say a year or two, then they probably wouldn't. They'd have to find another mate. So, right there.
When you release them, do you mark the birds so you know
We
when they
do.
come back?
We fit each of them with a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service band. It's a little silver band that goes on their ankle with some numbers. And if they're picked up in a study or injured, we usually get feedback on that. In fact, we released a bird, or an eagle, excuse me, from here that traveled all the way to Montana and was picked up in a study. He wasn't hurt or anything. So we know they traveled that far from here. I'm also working on, I'm in the proposal stages of a satellite telemetry project to see exactly where our release birds go and the success rate. And also, there's so many things I could talk about with that, so go ahead.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said that they had reintroduced the bald eagle to Catalina Island in Southern California.
There is a population of bald eagles in California. I don't know where Catalina is, but I want to say it's in the Baja area, so. By LA? Okay. But the ones I know about the eagles are in the Baja area, so. But it's possible.
Time for one more question.
She's just playing with her food. you gonna eat it? No? Yes? Last question? Anyone? No? Okay, well, what could I talk about? Let's see. Eggs. They lay between 1 to 3 eggs in a season. If there's plenty of food, they're more likely to lay 3. Less food, more likely to lay 1 or 2. Incubation takes about 34 days. When the chicks hatch, they're around 100 grams at birth. And then by 4 months of age, they leave the nest and are completely fledged, which is actually a really short amount of time for a bird. Well, not quite, but for such a large animal. And I think that's all. I'm not really sure if you guys want to, so.
It's not the bald eagle is not the largest eagle, is it?
No, I don't believe it is. And there's monkey-eating harpy eagles. I think the stellar is taller. So.
All right, now it's time to let Sitka and Lacey return to their respective habitats. So you just remain seated and hold your applause a little bit longer.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming out and supporting us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here in town. You ready?
Leave it.